Parliament welcomes new members. O'Neill questions 5 billion KINA COVID funding. And PNG poised to host Fiji in Rugby League in Port Moresby.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Tuesday's news. Parliament today welcomed 2 new members to the House for their first official sitting. Member for Kandep Don Pollier returned to his seat following an election dispute, and regional member for Bougainville, Peter Chamalili Jr., fresh from elections over a month ago.
The first order of the day for the 2021 sitting, and after 3.5 years, he finally walks into the honoured house and recites his oath. The member for Kandep says he's used the spare time to reflect.
I myself as a person stand on what I believe is right for the people. There should be no compromise, no giving up or giving in to what is good for the people. This House can stand up tall and proud to delivering a transformation good for the people.
He continues, politicians, irrespective of position in the House, should work towards common good, and that's something he's seen from the outside watching in.
You know, Mr. Speaker, this country will only be saved by us working together. In Kandep, I want to work together with Abraham Manasseh. The same thing in all election of Papua New Guinea. In this House, the opposition and the government, we should work together. We have 12 months before the next elections.
Speaker Job Pomat also welcomed the regional member for Bougainville to the House.
I play a role where you could almost see me as an ambassador, as a representative of the entire region of autonomous region of Bougainville on this floor of Parliament.
Mr. Tsamalili outlines there are outstanding issues that needs to be addressed by both governments, which includes the road to political independence for the region.
My priorities in aligning all Bougainville MPs and the ABG over the next couple of months, I will be concentrating on getting data from around Arab, so that my plan will be more responsible. I've established a strong relationship with the ABG President, Ismail Torma, and I would echo the same sentiments and aspirations of the ABG. Between the two of us, we have established a cordial relationship that what the national leaders are doing can be a lot more aligned to what the ABG wishes to achieve on the ground.
The regional member extends aspirations for his people to be economically empowered.
And the JSB has affirmed without any shadow of doubt that 621 million confirmed by an independent United Nations assessment is the actual amount owed by the government to Bougainville as far as the 2001 peace agreement is concerned. And yes, Bougainville needs to grow its economy to be ready to determine its full political future.
He continues, the PNG government and the government on the ground in Bougainville must work together towards achieving and fulfilling what was agreed upon in peace. Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
The East Sepik governor has raised concerns on the state of the Sepik National Highway and the contractor tasked to upgrade the road. The governor says not much has been done to upgrade the highway. During questions without notice today, the governor questioned the Works Minister on how the contract was awarded, who supervised the contract, and what can be done to rectify the issue. In his response, Works Minister Michael Nali says he was not aware of the contract and a response will be made after consulting his department.
And this is in relation to the Sepik Highway. A contract was issued under the former government to a contractor by the name of HBS. And Mr. Speaker, that contract has now failed. The Sepik Highway is now in a worse state than prior to the awarding of the contract. How could a contractor with no previous work experience be given a significant contract like this? My second question is, who supervised the work? The work is such poor quality that while they were working on it, they would complete a section and that section would collapse within a couple of weeks.
Since 2017 to date, I am not aware of. I'm not aware of this contract because I did not. I think participate, or it was not during my time. So, Mr. Speaker, I will need to get back to the department, get some information, and then I will report back to the governor for his CPIC.
Former Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has questioned the use of the 5 billion KINA under the COVID-19 funding. Among his concerns, Mr. O'Neill said prices of basic goods continue to rise, fueled by unemployment and law and order issues. The former Prime Minister directed his questions to Treasurer Ian Lingstaki.
The former Prime Minister expressed concerns surrounding the use of loans allocated for COVID-19, stating the economy is derailed while the cost of goods and services continue to rise. He questioned the use of COVID-19 funding boasted by the ruling government.
Is the Treasurer aware that our economy is now in recession? Is he aware that whilst loans are increasing, our exchange rate is declining? There is no foreign currency in the country. Inflation is going up. Prices of tin fish and rice are going up. Mr. Speaker, investor confidence is down. And Mr. Speaker, unemployment is going up right throughout the country. What is your office doing to address these issues?
In the past months, questions have been raised on the transparency of funds used by the National Pandemic Control Centre. The former Prime Minister says despite talks of a stimulus package deliberately for a balance in the workforce and those that were stripped of the job, O'Neill says nothing good has happened. O'Neill also demanded for a specific answer when the Treasurer will present the financial report for the COVID-19 funds.
COVID loans are now adding into billions of KINA. Mr. Treasurer, can you be assured this Honourable House where you are spending this money so that our people and our country can be aware of the spending that you are doing to address the COVID spread that is happening far and wide in this country? Could you give us the exact time frame when you will launch that full report of these loans that you are getting?
This was part of his response.
Mr. Speaker, there are two wars on COVID-19. Let's be clear about that. A health war and an economic war. Almost all of the 5.7 billion KINA was on the economic war. That's why we called it an economic stimulus package, not a COVID-19 health package. So overall, the economic stimulus package performed quite well.
Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
COVID-19 patients in Western Highlands Province are reluctant to go for a second test at the hospital after their 2 weeks of self-isolation. Mount Hagen General Hospital CEO Jane Holden says the hospital cannot do follow-ups on patients who have recovered or are still recovering. Vasanatayama files this report from Mount Hagen.
WHPHA has responded to the National COVID-19 Controller's recent statement regarding the public's interest to know the statistics of people who had COVID-19 and have recovered. The PHA says people in the province who tested positive with COVID-19 and are symptomatic were sent home to self-isolate for 14 days. However, after the 10th day, the patients turned off their phones, making it difficult for health staff to call and to do follow-ups on the situation.
All our health promotion activities, our health prevention measures information have not been followed to date. And this brings to our service, we are running in a situation where we will not have enough numbers to maintain the service. Though we have scaled down our operations amount of 3 weeks ago, we are likely to further scale down our service because of the number that we are receiving.
Hospital CEO Jane Holden says the health staff cannot do contact tracing or know if the patients have recovered because the hospital does not have the capacity to visit patients. Also, the patients are reluctant to answer phone calls. This has posed a threat to an increase in community transmission of the virus. The PHA staff recently requested to be vaccinated as more frontline health workers were infected with COVID-19.
The only thing that we are waiting for is the vaccine. And up to 600 of our health worker frontline team, including our partners, have given their names, wanted to receive the vaccines.
As of midnight Sunday, WHPHA has recorded a total of 710 positive COVID-19 cases. Among them are 87 frontline health workers who have contracted the virus through community transmission and from the patients. There were 14 COVID-19 related deaths so far. Those who may have died from COVID-19 but from home have not been recorded. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Sir Peter Bata is the patron of the PNG Institute of Medical Research, and he says spreading false information on social media is being irresponsible and causing serious doubt about COVID-19 in Papua New Guinea. Sir Peter expressed concerns on the lack of awareness and how people are responding to the effects of COVID-19.
Speaking as the patron of IMR, Sir Peter Bata says the virus has reached rural areas throughout PNG and health facilities are struggling to cope with its stress. The provincial hospitals are in worse state, many of them ready to close. Sir Peter says patients and staff who are infected are also refusing to be vaccinated due to unreliable news on social media.
How are they going to help you and others? How are they going to help people with other diseases? You know, at the moment we've got a hospital semi-closed, Engau's semi-closed, Port Moresby's full up, and they can't take in other illnesses as a result because there's so many staff and nurses and doctors that have COVID. It's absolutely necessary for them to be vaccinated so that they ultimately will be protected. So they can continue on doing the work that they're supposed to be doing, because we don't have enough health staff in the country to start with. And I don't know what percentage of health staff at the moment are out of action.
Senior researcher fellow of PNG IMR in Madang says NICTA should take immediate measures to control the spread of conflicting information flooding social media. Dr. Livingston Tavul says it is important that people get reliable sources based on scientific evidence to inform the public to make informed decisions.
As far as we are concerned now, the flooding of conflicting information, misinformation and manipulated information on social media should now be recognized as a public health threat. And I think NICTA should really do something about it to control it and eventually eradicate it.
Sir Peter brushed aside people's fears of getting vaccinated, saying he was also vaccinated and had no effect until 6 days later. The senior statesman says he had experienced fever with aches and pains, which were uncomfortable, and it all eased on day 7 with no side effects. Another challenge is testing. Provinces do not have the ability to test widely, and the end result shows a lower prevalence rate. Another concern is the need to have more isolation centers. Sir Peter says sending people to their homes may result in people spreading the virus. Martha Lewis, National EMTV News, Madang.
Still in Madang, the Melanesian Foundation has funded the publication of a question and answer booklet on COVID-19. The booklet is written by Papua New Guinean experts. The booklet and posters will be printed this week.
The questions that are most commonly asked are answered in this question in both English and in Pidgin. So that even in a rural area where people always speak Pidgin, they have the ability to be able to read this or be read to them so that they understand what we're talking about. The importance of information the board making decisions must be made on informed information. And that's what this book is about.
Now, this is the COVID-19 statistic updates in the country as of yesterday. One new death has been recorded, bringing the total up to 91, with NCD recording the highest number of deaths at 60. The total cases are now over 9,000, with 153 reported cases, new cases, and COVID patients are recovering in isolation wards. However, data is not readily provided from provincial hospitals to the National Control Centre. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll have more stories after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A second arrest has been made in relation to the abuse of 9.7 million KINA from the National Youth Development Authority. Detectives from the National Fraud Directorate arrested and charged Winnie Milam with 1 count of official corruption, conspiracy to defraud, and 1 count of misappropriation. The Director General of the National Youth Development Authority, Joe Itaki, was also arrested and faced similar charges on April 12, 2021. It is alleged that in 2018, the National Youth Development Authority did a PIP submission for 31.3 million KINA to the National Planning and Monitoring Department. The funds were not expanded on the project, with Milam and Itaki signatories to the NYDA operational account held at BSP. Milam is currently being held at the Boroko cells and will appear before the Waigani District Committal Court later this week to answer to her charges. 4 people have died in a tragic accident along the Paya Kona area in Tambul, Nabilia, Western Highlands Province yesterday. Police are yet to determine the cause of the accident, but eyewitnesses said the 25-seater PMV bus was traveling downhill at high speed and overturned on its way down. Mount Hagen General Hospital confirmed the deaths, while 25 people are being treated at the emergency department with serious injuries. This is not the first accident along the Paya Kona Road. Western Highlands Provincial Police Commander Jacob Kamiak recently warned drivers to be careful when driving on the road. The Eastern Highlands Emergency Working Committee in Port Moresby has agreed on a petition to be presented to their elected members of Parliament this Thursday. The committee expressed grief towards the recent tribal fights in Eastern Highlands.
The tribal fight between Tapo and Kainava in Kainantu district has escalated with the use of factory-made weapons, which resulted in the loss of many lives. The Kainantu committee confirmed 38 deaths, 19 of which were reported last week.
This tribal fight, involved the use of high-powered weapons and hand grenade, and is not going well with both parties, and there is a high possibility to trigger more deaths.
The Kainantu committee in NCD has agreed on a petition to call on the national government to call a state of emergency in Kainantu, as many lives have been lost and homes have been destroyed.
Na mivla be presenting petition igolo yupla simo leaders lo mivla. Na yuvla be presenting igolo government. Na government by scaling, suppose this is a petition, and we warrant him or qualify long 1+ state of emergency.
The committee is also seeking help from the police commissioner to assist in deploying police personnel to Goroka.
Because Kainantu hosts major infrastructures, government infrastructures in that district, as well as it is the first district of the entire highlands.
Kainantu is the entrance to the islands region with many government assets. Thus, the committee is requesting for government support and intervention to control the situation. Esther Thairam, National EMTV News.
Upon submitting his district's acquittals yesterday, Yanguru South MP Richard Maru says timely release of DSIP funds is one of the challenges faced in delivering services. MP Maru says many times the full DSIP funding is not given in a year by the Finance Department. This is one of the biggest hindrances to project implementation.
Members of the Yanguru South District Development Authority were present to submit the district acquittals to the Office of Rural Development through the Deputy Secretary, Rural Implementation, Gordon Mafimbi. As project implementation and acquittal is of concern, MP Maru said the SIP was put to good use to fund important projects in the district. The education sector was one.
I'm really happy that we are now able to acquit for the funds we've used to build those schools.
The health sector is another priority area that DDA has invested for development. One major health center was recently opened and others will soon follow.
The biggest one which we have opened recently is a health center in a place called Witibu.
Mr. Maru also explained why some projects in the district are taking so long to complete and why some projects are yet to be funded.
It's important that our people understand districts are able to deliver subject to the timely release of SIP funding.
District Administrator Jacob Yafai thanked the ORD and Finance Department for producing Form 11. Form 11 is a document to monitor how much money is spent on which project to make acquittals easy to compile for submission. He said this was key to ensure projects are delivered with monetary value.
Form 11 is a very, very important form for the member because that is the form where the member would now pin every amount there to the project. And he will know this amount is spent to that project. If member does not agree, then he says no.
Alexis Sengi, National EMTV News.
And now looking at the NAS Funds market report, the KINA opened unchanged at $0.2850 in the interbank markets this morning. At Bank South Pacific, your KINA was buying $0.2775 $0.3528 Australian dollars, $0.3822 New Zealand dollars, and 29.37 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading lower. Coffee, cocoa, and copra closed higher. Palm oil closed higher. Crude oil is trading higher, and copper closed lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed lower. The ASX 200 is trading higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading higher. National EMTV News continues with more stories after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the news. Northern Governor and Chair of the Special Parliamentarian Committee, Gary Jufa, said the committee would investigate the National Housing Corporation, particularly the eviction exercise in Lae. Governor Jufa said this is part of an undertaking by the government to address corruption and to rebuild the public sector that has been neglected over the years. Julie Badui-Oa reports.
Of our people. This has not happened.
Northern Governor and Chair of the Special Parliamentarian Committee, Gary Jufa, says the National Housing Corporation is one of the organizations under the public sector, which the committee would conduct a preliminary inquiry into. Governor Jufa says the inquiry will help the committee make recommendations as to how NHC can function as it's supposed to.
From our basic discussions, it appears that there are a number of issues in Lae that first is the occupation or the illegal occupation of National Housing Commission properties by persons. Some persons who are legally there, but they have not paid their dues or their outstanding fees. So, they have reached a stage where their eviction is warranted, and the organization has the right to do that. There are those issues where there are those situations where there are properties that are being occupied unlawfully. Persons who are not authorized to be in those properties. They are not public servants, they are not paying rent at all, some are unemployed persons, etc., etc. So again, we have to identify why it came to that stage and what actions are available for the organization and what it can do. The other matter of grave concern is the fact that these properties are purportedly being sold. Well, who are they being sold by, and why are they being sold, and to who? And is that process transparent? Is that lawful? These are some of the answers, questions that we seek answers to.
Jufa's statement follows the evictions that have been happening in Lae by the National Housing Corporation. A recent eviction that captured the attention of the Special Parliamentarian Committee through media reports was this NHC property at Lae's Comron Street. According to the NHC office in Lae, the tenants were evicted due to outstanding rentals. The state property was pending NHC management's decision to hand over to KC2, a Chinese national-owned company in Lae, to offset the debt.
Basically, the previous management has sold some properties to KC2. And you would be aware of all those properties, yeah. The number of properties were sold to KC2. And to date, KC2 has not taken any vacant possession. They parted with their money, they paid, they've got official receipts, bank checks, everything done. But to date, they have not obtained vacant possession. They have not moved into the properties. That's for about 3, 4, 5 years ago.
I keep following up every time to time. How they look for the house and give it to me, it's their business, not my business. I'm not NHC. I'm the safari. Whoever pay can't even move in. I need my money back. Or give me the house, that's all.
Chair of the Special Parliamentarian Committee, Governor Jufa, says inquiry into NHC has begun. The committee will request information from stakeholders, including the media, to come up with a report in order to liaise with the organization.
A symptomatic inquiry is to review what has happened with the National Airports question blown out in the media, whereby it has been alleged that properties in Lae were being sold by the National Housing Commission or officers working for the National Housing Commission under very suspect circumstances, and that persons who were occupying these properties were being evicted. So we want to understand what's happening there. We have spoken to the managing director, acting managing director, Mrs. Elizabeth Mawada, and the minister.
Julie Badui, OWA, National EMTV News, Lae.
The United Nations Development Programme presented 2 new vehicles and ICT equipment to the National Coordination Office of Bougainville Affairs today. This is to support the post-referendum process of the autonomous region of Bougainville.
Caretaker Director of NCOBA, Wemin Boy, received the keys of 2 new vehicles and ICT equipment worth 325,000 KINA from the UNDP resident representative Dirk Wagner this morning at the NCOBA office. This is to ensure that the key national government institution for Bougainville Affairs is fully equipped to perform its functions towards the post-referendum process.
And the UN and the UNDP have remained steadfast in its commitment to assist wherever it can to ensure that proper support is provided to both government of Papua New Guinea and ABG to engage in a meaningful dialogue and consultation and ultimately present the results of the consultations to the National Parliament.
Our support has now shifted towards support for the equally crucial post-referendum phase. We continue to provide policy advisory services, technical, operational, and logistical support to the post-referendum process. And we are very grateful to many partners who actually support us in this effort.
Mr. Wagner says UNDP and the UN's support over the years included early recovery efforts in the agriculture sector, weapons disposal, capacity development, support to the Arab government and its House of Representatives, the referendum, and now the post-referendum process.
We at NCOBA indeed the government of Papua New Guinea as a whole always have been grateful and appreciative of the commitment and dedicated contribution by the UN and its agencies, specifically UNDP in the whole process.
The vehicles and ICT equipment presented today is part of various donations made by the United Nations Development Programme in response to requests for help made by the National Coordination Office for Bougainville Affairs. Gertrude Gabi, National EMTV News.
Chukai Sports is next among stories after the break. Exxon renews Kumul's sponsor and Iton pledges a new role for PNG Hunters. All the details after the break.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. Representative Rugby League is set to return this year, with Papua New Guinea poised to host Fiji in the nation's capital. ExxonMobil, with PNG LNG as the major sponsor of the Kumuls, renewed their sponsorship today as PNG also prepares for the Rugby League World Cup. Depending on the COVID-19 situation, the Prime Minister's 13 may happen.
It has been a year without any rugby league representative football by the PNG LNG Kumuls. But this year, the mid-year representative window has reopened, with Port Moresby the likely host for a showdown of Melanesian rivals Fiji Bati and the PNG LNG Kumuls in June. But this depends on the current COVID-19 situation, as stated by Chairman of the Papua New Guinea Rugby Football League Sandi Saka during the renewal of sponsorship by ExxonMobil. Also on the cards, the return of the PM's 13 Challenge.
Media test against Fiji in June, tentatively scheduled for Port Moresby. We will be monitoring the COVID situation, and however, whether it still happens in country or in Australia, we'll monitor that, but it's locked in to go. The PM's 13 at the end of the year is happening, and then we have a couple of trial matches the PNG RFL has locked in for the Kumuls leading up to the World Cup in England 2021.
ExxonMobil has been the naming rights sponsor for the PNG LNG Kumul since 2013 and has been a big contributor to the rise of the team from 16th place to now 6th on the Rugby League World Rankings. The new 3-year deal will see the Kumuls World Cup preparations get a much-needed boost.
The signing today, the 3-year partnership, is a great signing because the 2021, as we build up to the 2021 World Cup, the continued partnership with ExxonMobil and PNG LNG gives us confidence, the PNG RFL confidence that we can prepare our team well. And it gives Coach Michael and his coaching staff and the players confidence that they can prepare well and we can work towards building up towards the World Cup this year.
ExxonMobil PNG Executive Director Keith Killian added that the sponsorship was to ensure the team is well prepared for the 2021 World Cup in England.
It's important for the country that our team has the resources it needs to do the best it can during the upcoming World Cup. We trust that our sponsorship this year will support the team's preparation and participation in the successful World Cup that we know our entire country will be watching in support of our very own PNG LNG Kumuls.
Fidelis Sukina, Chukai Sports.
Assistant coach for PNG Hunters Paul Iton is not new to Papua New Guinea rugby. He's a legend in the code and has represented Papua New Guinea from 2007 to 2017 as Kumul number 214. With the new role, Iton says it means more for him to be part of Papua New Guinea through the code of rugby league.
So I moved closer to the Gold Coast so I could be available 24/7 for the boys, and so I was just waiting for them to come. But yeah, I was very excited to get the job and really excited to help as any way I can. Taking on the coaching gig, you know, I never saw myself moving into this sort of space, but towards the end of my career, and especially for anything to do with Papua New Guinea, with the players and in development, I'm always drawn to that. So as soon as this job came up, it felt right for me. I've always got time for my fellow players. So yeah, you're right. The World Cup's coming up, so I'm always available to carry water.
The Central Dabaris today received new sets of jerseys from major sponsor, the Central Provincial Government. The jerseys are a much-needed boost for the Dabaris, who finished 10th on the ladder in the 2020 Digital Cup season. Kilawani with more.
Central Dabaris will enter the 2021 season with a new look, all thanks to the major sponsors, the Central Provincial Government. The club received new home and away jumpers presented by Robert Agarobe, Governor for Central, at the CPG headquarters earlier today. Governor Agarobe stated during the presentation, since coming on board as major sponsors, CPG has seen positive results in the club.
Dabaris is one of those institutions that we've set up. It's in line with the provincial plan with agriculture, tourism and sports. So far since we've taken over and become a major sponsor for and a shareholder for Dabaris, we have tried to build an institution so that it does what it's supposed to do without interference from politics.
Adding the new jerseys represent more than just the Central Dabaris Rugby League flagship.
To wear this jersey with pride, as you are now representing the people of Central Province.
In the 2020 Digicel Cup competition, the Dabaris closed off the season in the bottom 3 on the ladder. However, 2021 seems different. According to CDRL Chairman Sola Damena, so far the club's 2021 preparations have been successful, all owing to the support of CPG.
It's been the best preparation that we've had since the inception of the franchise. And that could only have been done possible with the injection of the support from our major sponsor and shareholder, the Central Provincial Government.
Hubert Warupi, CEO of Central Dabaris Rugby League, says the boost is part of the club's obligation to player welfare.
We do also have an obligation to give back, and the players will have gone through programs that talk about and encourage and enhance values, the values that we have as a franchise.
Head coach Garo Pepena says with the support his players are getting, 2021 looks bright for the club.
If you look after the welfare of the players and the coaching staff, there's a lot of good things will happen. So I'm really grateful that the government is backing us up.
Players, both experienced and new, have welcomed the boost and are excited for the 2021 season.
What we have seen from my experience, the level of support has been improved, really improved.
Player welfare and all that, it's second to none compared to all the other franchise. So yeah, on behalf of the players, we're really thankful and grateful to be part of the team. And yeah, I'm including myself.
Kilawani, Trukai Sports.
And Trukai Sports continues with more after the break. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. After 5 weeks of isolation in adherence to the isolation measures set by the National Pandemic Controller, the Barramundis are now back on the field for training. With 5 months away from the T20 Men's World Cup, strength and conditioning coach Mei Ling Chung says the boys are easing back into their training schedules.
The Barramundis are back to training after a month of break, and the long break was no holiday for the T20 World Cup bound Barras.
The players have been away for the past 5 weeks now, and when they were sent home, we made sure that they continued trainings back at their own home. Obviously, if they were in isolation, we made sure that they did their training in the house, and some of the boys who were okay, they managed to sort of do it in smaller groups back at the village or with the girls as well.
Strength and conditioning coach Mei Ling Chung says while the new head coach is not physically here with the boys, weekly schedule continues and the boys are training in smaller groups.
We work with him to make sure that the training programs, they ease back into it and we're not going too hard, too fast to reduce the risk of injury. So the players come back in. We've got 3 times a week for the boys and twice a week for the girls at the moment.
Coach Mei Ling adding it's a matter of trust when giving training as homework, but she says draft programs account for those that may not have been doing their homeworks.
You'll be able to pick out the ones that have been doing their work and those ones that haven't. But just to be safe, to be on the safe side, I'm going to assume that all the players haven't been doing anything too too crazy out there, so we make sure we ease them back into the program.
In the meantime, the women's international events are still shady for 2021, including the 50-over qualifiers in Samoa later this year. The coaching team says focus remains on set goals going forward.
But as we all know, the dates and tournament dates are all up in the air at the moment. It's just important that we keep focused to what we need and work towards that.
Kilawani, Trukai Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports. The weather details after the break.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Cloudy periods with patchy rain drizzles at times in Port Moresby, Kirima and Popondetta, and cloudy with a few rain showers in Daru and Alatau. In the Mamasi region, cloudy periods with possible morning showers in Lae and Medang. Cloudy periods with some drizzles in Vanimo and Wewak. In the New Guinea Islands region, cloudy with rain showers and possible thunderstorms in Lorengau and Kimbe, and cloudy with a few showers in Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul and Buka. And in the Highlands region, cloudy with rain drizzles, then morning fog right across the region at Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
And that's been the news, sport and weather for Tuesday, 20th of April 2021. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing, be safe and good night.